All right, there we are. Welcome, everybody. All right. I'm going to make sure that this feed's going. Right. Looks like this one's okay. And this one's good too. All right. Just need a minute to set up my chat windows. Hang on really quick. Thank you for joining. Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you left about. All right. I can do another one. I'm learning some new songs, folks. Can you believe it? You don't have to listen to the same crap over and over again. Excuse me. It won't be happening if I have a raspy throat, though. All right. I think we're okay. Hello. Welcome, Lisa. How you doing? Hello, Willow. How you doing? Thank you for joining. Yeah. So let's just get right into it. I have not seen the no pun intended there, because I know I pointed that one out. Although it's certainly relevant to this story if you know about Central Oregon and what goes on out there. Yes, though, I'm going to be talking about the Rajneesh, I should say, and Rajneeshpuram. Excuse me, I'm suddenly getting itchy. And Rajneeshpuram out of there in Wasco County, Oregon. Now, I actually know a lot about that whole region, like a lot, more than average. I've actually been out there, and I've probably, for a non-resident, I've probably seen more of it than most people. Even there's probably some locals that would probably argue that I've seen quite a bit of Wasco County, you know, like places that they've never even had access to, I got to see. The reason why is that I used to be a professional radio frequency communication planning engineer, and I did long-term planning for radio communications for cellular phones. I was a person that basically was, I specialized in rural telecommunications. If you're curious about any of this, well, I'll just give you a link to it. Hang on. I'll give you a link to my Twitter profile where I have my resume pinned up, or I'll just show it to you right now. What the hell? Why not? Can't hurt. May as well just show you my resume as long as we're here. It's all right. Let's put this out for a second. Nope. And I'll share it with you real quick. So in case you're saying like, hey, Gabe, what the hell do you know? Well, I'll tell you. Hang on. All right, here we go. So I say, if you'd like to know more about my professional experience, I've attached my resume. You can see I spent nearly 20 years in the wireless industry and worked in many varied technical roles there. Before retiring, I spent a couple years working on in-building systems. Those are called DAS. That would stand for distributed antenna systems and repeaters. And that's where I learned a lot about the bridge of my knowledge relative to the tower industry, like where I really learned, you know, how this works. So hang on really quick. Like, excuse me, guys. What I mean by that is it was right around this time in my last couple of years that I learned about what was going on with like things involving buildings and how signals can be retransmitted in between buildings and things like that, you know? All right. So that's effectively my resume, just in case you're wondering. And this would be the time right here where I really learned about these areas. I was in this era. I don't know if they'll let me highlight it now. When I was an RF engineer here at US Cellular, my markets included areas that would include like Wasco County. And so it was basically my job to expand wireless coverage and rural telecommunications out to those areas. Okay. All right. Hang on really quick though, guys, because usually when something like what just happened, excuse me, it's because I'm kind of getting a hint that I'm being kind of like, what do you want to call it? Shadow banned. So give me a second really quick. And this is to establish with my partners right now who could be reviewing it. You're going to see me through a window. IP window. All right. That would be about 7:32 timestamp relative to that. Okay. Yeah, guys, sorry about the interruption. I'm not trying to be whatever. It's just that the last month it's been pretty bad as far as like my network hacking goes, and I've been things have slowed down considerably as far as like ability to contact me. Things seem to have throttled a lot. In some environments, my emails get blocked entirely. So that's why I have to kind of like do certain things to like figure out like how the hell is this all happening exactly? Where is the routes going on that are causing it? So, and hopefully that'll help a lot of folks, unwind a lot of things that have been going on in their situations too. It usually does. Usually anytime somebody unhacks whatever is going on with me, a lot of others benefit as a result. So no worries there. Right. So just asking guys, when you approach the material in here, just try to be respectful because I do take this really seriously. So I'm not trying to get thrown off track here, but just try to approach it a little bit better than that. That's the only reason why I did that, guys. I'm not going to be thrown off track here, but this is basically my work experience though. I did that rural telecommunications here. It says, I expanded coverage in remote locations, responsible for regulatory filings, extension agreements, and updating Planet EV. Planet EV was a database that I managed that was basically responsible for like doing all the design parameters for all the cell towers within those rural telecommunication markets in Washington and Oregon State. And so that's why like, and I'll just take this off screen now so we can get back to whatever, but, or if I'll just leave it a little bit up there for a second so you can see it if you want to. But that just kind of gives you an idea, though, of why I might know things. And then beyond that, I just had a lot of good times driving around with a lot of my coworkers and just partners in the industry. And we shared a lot of stories. And then I remember one of them bringing up to me like going, "Hey, this is where the Rajneesh was. Do you remember that?" And I'm like, "Going, no, I think that was a little bit before my time." Well, it really wasn't actually before my time. It's just simply that I wouldn't have a good enough memory of it because I was, really not that old when it happened, keeping in mind I was born in 74. And so they were active, in the early 80s leading up into the mid 80s. And I think like the whole thing ended about the like early 1990s. maybe like 1990 or so. And by that point, I'm not thinking about things like that. And what really got me interested lately about it was that a few years ago when I was researching things about, I guess you could say cultural indoctrination relative to Nazism within America. And, this sort of like the way that they kind of softened it to us. For example, shows like Hogan's Heroes, where it's like, ha, 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 here's a show about, American POWs, that are in a Nazi German concentration camp of sorts, right? Being treated basically pretty civil, right? Not tortured or anything like that, and it's like, and then you have all the different colonels like, oh, you Hogan, I'm going to get you if you don't behave. And they just make it all kind of a shtick and a comedy. This was produced by Albert S. Ruddy. Let's get that on the screen really quick. Hang on. Because that's why I need to start bringing in, hang on really quick. Almost there. Prem. Okay. I'm going to start with this slide. I think I still have it up here. Yeah, there we go. All right. So what got me on this was Prem Hasya was one of the people that was out there at the Rajneeshpuram facility. And she went by the name, well, she was originally Francoise Ruddy when she was married to Albert S. Ruddy. She was born Francoise Weisenberg. She married Albert S. Ruddy down here, Canadian-born film and television producer. And that's how she got the name Francoise Ruddy, All right, so what's he known for? Well, Hogan's Heroes. Okay, Hogan's Heroes is an American television sitcom set in Nazi German prison of war camp during World War II. It ran for 168 episodes from September 17, 1965 to April 4th, 1971 on the CBS network. That's an interesting correlation. Bob Crane was the star of it. He was kind of a controversial character. He had some issues going on. They made a movie about it called Autofocus that you might have heard of. Kind of tells you a little bit about him, some of the things that were going on in the background. But Hogan's Heroes, again, was a show that was, if you look at the plot line here, it was an American television sitcom set in a Nazi German prisoner of war POW camp during World War II, right? I mean, and think about this, guys. What I've kind of tracked out here, close, not that close to Wasco County, but you're getting closer to the region where a lot of the Nazis did in fact come into America that a lot of people don't know about, but it's a reversal on this exact thing. If you look at what happened in America, we had a couple cases where it was sort of like Fort Bliss was one example with the paperclip, Operation Paperclip. But there's another, I guess you could say, similar type of project. I don't know what they had as a project name or what they called it, that I still haven't discovered. And maybe I need to just dig a little bit deeper to find that data set. But that the other ones were imported into Tule Lake, California, into Newell, California. And Newell, California is what's called the Tule Lake Segregation Facility, where they in fact had, it was an American, American prisoner of war camp that was designed for Germans and Italians that were brought over from Europe during that same time frame when they were Nazi affiliated. So we had our own Hogan's Heroes like as a reversal, but it happened out at the Tule Lake Segregation Facility. So I'm not going to get deep into the history of that. I'm just going to say that if you know where Wasco County, Oregon is, and I can get a map up of that, that might help out a little bit. That actually might be a good idea to get help out and show you guys a little bit about, some of the terrain and some of the areas out there and how it all kind of connects a little bit geographically. I became interested in the Rajneeshpuram area, though, because a coworker of mine, we were working on a project for a couple years together, just a little bit north of Madras, Oregon. And Madras, Oregon was, it was just like, what do you call it? Like, it's not that big of a town. It's kind of like right smack in the middle of Central Oregon, with like a gas station and like a Safeway as you enter into town and everything. And the road kind of splits and the town's in the center and on the sides kind of thing. There's a lot of towns like this in Oregon where it does that. You enter town and it splits down the middle and you have like one-way roads on both sides. I don't know what the deal is with it, but there's a lot of this out there. Anyways, and then if you head south of there, you start getting into closer to like where Bend, Oregon is, and like where the Deschutes National Forest is, and that's just a huge, huge forest. I know about that area because my uncle was a director, I think, or something like that, or somewhere along that level. My uncle was for years. He's now deceased, but he went on to run something at the Department of Forestry, is my understanding. But so I know the area well, guys, is all I'm trying to say, and that I kind of have an idea of how Hollywood has connections to out there, because a lot of the people that came into areas like Newell, California, and had connections to Americans here, they kind of embedded themselves within the family names of those Merrill, Oregon, and Tule Lake, California families. And those are all surrounding those Nazi camps. Seems to me like they didn't go back to Germany or Italy. It wasn't like they were temporary POWs that were repatriated back home. Seems to me like they stuck around here, and many of them actually either hid out in cave systems, which Tule Lake has many of them, by the way. Tule Lake has so many cave systems you could not possibly imagine it. They have something called a lava bed national park or something like that. You can actually go visit some of the more they've just added lights and things and steps to them and staircases. I mean, these are elaborate cave systems they have out there. And I've counted many of them. There's dozens and dozens of these cave systems. And I can assure you, anywhere there's caves, there's going to be some of these bloodlines from here or whatever, guys. So again, guys, this isn't supposed to be like about American Nazi 101 or anything like that. It's just to kind of give you an idea that there's certain people that you need to, like, when they come from certain roots and everything, it doesn't make them bad people, but you kind of have to question like some of the reality of what's going on right now, because it's this weird mix of these rural kind of interests within these also typically kind of like urban liberal interests that we're kind of seeing today. Why am I drawing a parallel between, for example, if you read my description here, I was telling you, if you understand Rajneesh, what's going on with that, you know what's going on with Antifa, and how there's a real similar nature to how this is all being structured and manufactured. You need to look at the parallels here, and I'll get deeper into what the Rajneesh is. Let's kind of just forget some of these things involving this crap a little bit, and I'll put on another screen here. All right, let's talk about what Rajneeshpuram really is. I'm telling you this because this story is kind of about what is the psychological warfare component to it, like kind of destroying your enemy through these sort of made up fictions. And that's kind of what these people were really about, was creating these super hyper realistic fictions out of like that were partially mixed with reality. They kind of bind sometimes to some holistically, or whatever, not holistically, but organically. Like, for example, Rajneesh, was he real? Did he believe what he talked about? I don't know. Who is Rajneesh, first of all? The Rajneesh movement are people inspired by the Indian mystic Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, also known as Osho, particularly initiated disciples who are referred to as neo-sannyasins. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sannyasins, maybe. They used to be known as Rajneesh, or orange people, because of the orange and later red, maroon, and pink clothes they used from 1970 until 1985. Members of the movement are sometimes called Oshoites in the Indian press, or Oshoites. The movement was controversial in the 70s and 80s due to the founders' hostility to traditional moral values, first in India. Hang on, let me make that bigger. First in India and later in the United States. In the Soviet Union, the movement was banned as being contrary to positive aspects of Indian culture and to the aims of the youth protest movement in Western countries. The positive aspects were seen as being subverted by Rajneesh, who is seen as a reactionary ideologue of the monopolistic bourgeois of India, promoting the ideas of the consumer society in a traditional Hindu guise. Wow, it's almost like they kind of understand what the game is, right? That's what this is always about. See, they co-opt something that does have some legitimacy to it. See, there's some real mystics out there that really kind of have it in their heart, know what this is all about, really understand things like prana and human energy and what we're all here for to do as creators. And they're always like bumped out of the way and replaced by somebody that says, no, I'm going to buy 100 Rolls Royces and parade them out in front of all my parishioners and followers. Yes, I want everybody to be this kind of wealthy, and then you'll know that you're enlightened. You'll know that you've reached a true state of enlightenment. I mean, again, it's kind of tapping into people's natural sense of like wanting more and feeling like they deserve this or that or whatever. And on top of that, you know, mixed in with the mysticism and the religion, and you know, they know how to add like that dash of reality, because it's not like this guy, the Rajneesh, didn't hang around the people who really understood it. It's not like he didn't really get it himself on some level. It's just that he was easily corruptible. He was, I mean, if my understanding is, I think that his main person inside there, Sheila, was, I think he met her when she was like a 16-year-old cocktail waitress or something like that, something to that effect, or running like a hotel counter or something like that. And then, you know, it was very odd that it suddenly got blended into these people that were just from all these other countries that were suddenly co-opting these Indian names and saying like, oh no, I'm not Francoise. Now my name is Prem Hasya. You know, Hasya, does it map rem? I mean, map, like a map, like geography. Rem is rapid eye movement. Haze, you know, hazing people, like openly trolling you or gaslighting the community. Prem Hasya. It seems a little bit like they're just making these puns as part of their name. And it's, again, it mocks the genuine Hindu and Indian culture, and simultaneously bumps the real mystics out of the way, and replaces them with people that will say, no, it's about Rolls Royces and turning an entire community of rural Oregon into our, you know, our palace of whatever. So, yeah, thanks for that, Lisa. Yeah. Yeah, again, I just need you to know though, Lisa, like can I make it really clear though, like I don't really fault somebody for being into like the Osho aspect or necessarily, right? I kind of get why people are into this form of mysticism. I had somebody that I was around not that long ago that was trying to introduce me into some of the concepts involving a lot of the more things that are closer to Hindu mysticism and things that are closer to the culture in India. And, you know, I didn't really absorb it that much when I was around them. But let me tell you something. At the core of a lot of these teachings is everything about the body as an electromagnetic machine. They understand all these things about our fields of energy, and they're pioneers with these things on the level of like a Nikola Tesla too. And it goes back centuries when they've been talking about it. So there's such a correlation between the way, you know, all these like the things that they tap into. It's not like it's a little bit like, again, I'm going to probably be controversial here again, but like Scientology, it's not, even though like you can make fun of the whole Xenu aspect of it and everything like that, it's not like L. Ron Hubbard didn't study black magic. It's not like L. Ron Hubbard didn't study Ordo Templi Orientis and hang out with Jack Parsons and do a Moonchild Babylon working ritual with Marjorie Cameron. That man understood all of that things, right? So how do you think he makes it so, how does it get so believable to the people that are in there that are highly intelligent? Because look how many intelligent, bright, brilliant, and fine actors, by the way, that wind up in Scientology, and whether they stick around or leave or want to leave and just can't or don't, what got them there? What like really brought them into it? Was it just simply that they knew like, well, if I pay all these fees, you know, I got easy access into these whatever? Well, maybe that might have been what did it for some people, but you know, I think there has to be something else that kind of goes like, no, there's something here. If I know how this works and this works, then yeah. So once you get past all the things, like say you don't believe in their learnings, you know that the part that it gets them is that e-meter aspect. Like there's something about the auditing session and the stress that they go through, and the form of hypnotism that goes through with that they know is hypnotism, guys. Even if you're doing it, and if you agree it's healthy, you know it's a form of hypnotism. But it's also a form of like therapy in a way, because it kind of clears your mind out, but it also kind of gives you an attachment to the person that's doing it, right? So again, you know, you got to be careful with these things. All right. So I didn't mean to get off track, guys, by talking about Scientology, but it's a little bit like that. I'm just saying, like, you know, intelligent people get part of these. So I'm not trying to insult anybody that kind of like found some of the core learnings to be like that they understood it and it felt like close to them, or you felt closer to God as a result or something like that. I get it. I'm really not trying to insult you or even like the person that you feel is your leader. This is more about you, whether you were an organic part of it and believed it, or you were a part of the deception is, I guess, different, right? I have a different message for those who I think partake in the deception and those who I think co-opt a movement and those who are just people that were easily fooled, or not easily even, just who just got fooled. Sorry, I'm not trying to insult you there. It's just simply that I think what this was designed to do, if you really look into it, and I'm going to expand this window. It says in Oregon, the movement's large intentional community of the early 1980s, called Rajneeshpuram, caused immediate tensions in the local community for its attempts to take over the nearby town of Antelope and later the county seat of the Dalles. In case anybody wonders what that is, it's not Dallas. If you ever see the Dalles, that's how you say it. Oregon's really weird. We have like a street that looks like it's spelling couch, but it's actually, and I know you're going to make fun of me, but it's actually pronounced cooch. So the next time you're in Portland and you see a street, I'm not trying to trick you with some way of like, hey guys, tell all the people, tourists, that it's named cooch instead of couch. Haha, see if they do it. No, you'll actually get more mocked if you don't call it cooch. Funny though. But anyways, the Dalles is not that far away from these areas. That's another spot that I did design in, which is funny actually, because the company that I worked for is actually in the photos of where they did this whole attack, a bio attack. Hang on really quick, I'll show you. Where is it? Yeah, check this out. So this community back in 1984 that was part of the Rajneeshis, they did this whole bioterror attack. It's one of the earliest examples of like a one that was of a significant type. And they basically poisoned everybody in a major rural Oregon town. I mean, the Dalles, when you poison the Dalles, like they knew what they were doing. They weren't just attacking some little rural place. There's quite a bit of industry in the Dalles. It's really a central location where nearly everybody, probably within 100 miles, would come to on a regular basis, because it's probably the biggest town outside of like Hood River, which is more of a touristy place. The Dalles is really where people would go within that spot, like kind of in the middle of everything before you get into the desert areas and you're still kind of in the areas where it's more mountain, there's more snow and things like that. The Dalles and the Hood River area are it. And so this is kind of a hub for a lot of people. And it's been, and actually it's expanded so much since then. I do believe Google has a huge data center or something, or a data processing center out there where they do like energy, because it's collecting hydroelectric energy, I think, from the river. And so they get a reduced cost on their energy as a result of being so close to the source of it. So anyways, that's just a little bit of history for you. But yeah, check this out though. You might notice here that one of the restaurants they poisoned was a Skipper's, right? And trippy, right? Because I've actually been inside this exact retail store because I worked at this company. So the whole time I was doing rural design at all these cell towers and everything, it was at US Cellular. That was the company that I was designing all the cell towers at. And it turns out that the bioterrorism attack happened at the Skipper's that's next to where, I don't know what was there at the time. I'm sure US Cellular wasn't open yet. If they were, I'd be really surprised that they were in this location. But I really doubt that they were. But because the Dalles, they had another office altogether. They did their engineering and things like that out of. Anyways, little history you don't need to know, I guess. But my rural street cred, as you could say, I guess. Hang on. All right. So there's that, right? So there's the Rajneesh bioterror attack. This is where they basically spread salmonella into a Taco Time, Skipper's, a Burgerville, and a local restaurant called The Wagon. And then that basically caused like a huge panic. And the purpose of this basically was to steer you guys. I mean, the point of this was to steer election results. Their plan basically was that they were going to import a lot of homeless people into Wasco County to live with people that were there in the commune called Rajneeshpuram. And so they were trying to get as many people bussed in as possible, bringing them in from the middle of the city, a process that seems to have been ongoing since. They find new ways of doing this, guys, which is where I'm trying to bridge what's going on with Rajneeshpuram into modern day things, okay? Because you kind of need to understand that here's the thing. If you casually watch the news, all of this might look a bit fishy, but it might just make you chuckle really quick and you won't think much about it after that, like why their names sound like puns. You're going to think that it's a kind of a coincidence, you know, like Ma Prem Hasya, or oh yeah, I get it. Rage. They're going to make us angry. Yeah, that's what the Rajneesh did. I get it. Rajneesh is kind of a common thing within nomenclatures, but their purpose was to create rage. So they're going to use this very calm, patient Hindu guy to go to all these places around central rural Oregon. And guess what they get to do when you don't immediately accept Rajneesh, the man from India? Racist, bigot. You don't accept our religion. You don't accept my race. And they understand that they're presenting this person that's false, that's a little bit of a fiction, that's they're trolling these people's intuition like, hey, you know what? I'm a nice person. Like, because look, guys, I'm from this area. Meaning to say, like, I've spent all kinds of time in rural central Oregon to know that these are quality people, very nice. Now, look, is there some bigotry out there? Sure. We'll never deny that. They would probably admit it themselves. They'd be like, yeah, man, you know, we don't see too many different kinds of people around here. So, you know, makes us a little nervous. Well, all I'm trying to explain to you guys is, do you understand, like, this is kind of it was almost like a test. It was a way to figure out people's psychology, to troll their intuition a little bit, create something that's fictional and tell these people like, well, here are all you Christians out there in the middle of rural Oregon where it's pretty much nothing but white people or Hispanics mostly. I mean, it's almost entirely white people with a very, I'd say the majority of the rural populations. In some cases, you can actually have counties that are majority Hispanic, quite frankly. Because of all the influx of migrant workers mainly, and then they wind up being able to stay there stationary as, you know, laborers, and they build families, and then they're the ones that were laborers have children that become, you know, doctors and lawyers or policemen or whatever, right? This is kind of like the American dream when it comes to, you know, migration. A lot of people do it the right way and they get all their credentials and things. Some start off in a gray area. Touche. I get it, guys. I was always pretty an apologist for people who did it that way, because I just thought, hey, man, you know, people really, they're trying to get a better life. But then I started to understand how there is a sort of industrial strength weaponizing of that thing, right? What I'm telling you guys is like, that's their doorway into my psyche. Like, I'm a person that goes, hey, you guys, leave them alone, man. They just want a new life. Well, yeah, those people do, not the ones. This is all a fiction that's being placed in front of you because you're not really seeing the reality like the people in Antelope, Oregon did. You don't really get it. A news story is going to tell you from a distance, like, well, these people came in, they're a little different. You know, us in the city, we understand these things. But those, hey, man, those yokels out in the middle of the country, they don't get it, you know, man. They have to have all this Eastern mysticism things explained to them. And the irony is, Eastern mysticism involves a lot of human energy concepts. They really do. Everything to do with your subtle energy fields, electromagnetism, they really get it. Those religions are super deep within this. And as a precursor to this, I should have started off by this, telling you guys, like, I worked with quite a few, and I'm not saying this like, hey guys, I got a lot of black friends. It's not like that. I don't have a lot of Indian friends either. What I'm telling you this is that I mean to say that I worked with enough folks from these backgrounds to kind of go like, hey, you know, uh, it's what am I trying to say here? I work with enough people from these backgrounds to know that like that this isn't really a model for this type of mysticism, like the of the broad range of views that they had. And I worked with a group of guys that were, a lot of them were from India. I was in one work group when I was in the San Francisco Bay Area in particular. They were the coolest guys. I used to hang out with them after work even sometimes and have beers with them. They were really, really fun. And it just told me a lot about their culture and what politics are like over there. And they were very broadly ranged in opinions. Americans, by contrast, are so dualistic in our opinions. Like it's nice now because I'm seeing people like expand their, like this whole cluster effery of what's going on in our country has made more people just have just like real conversations with each other now, and we're getting it now. We're becoming like more evolved and saying like, yeah, I'm not too down with this duality thing. I'm not too down with just feeling like I have to choose black versus white, left versus right, white versus black. You know, when you go to India, they got like dozens of political parties, and sometimes you'll see like I've seen like their political discourse. It's every bit as awful and sloppy as American political discourse at times, but they'll have like several of these squares. It's bad enough when you see like CNN and MSNBC putting up like 4 or 5 of them, and they're all going back and forth arguing. Rare, but like I've seen some of the shows like out in India where there's just like everybody's like talking at the same time. It's like when you'd have to have some kind of filter software to say like, whoever I want to listen to, I'm gonna have to filter out all the rest of these. It's trippy. Hang on, guys. I need a sip of coffee here. But yeah, and I found at my working group they were every bit as diverse in their opinion. And I had a couple guys that I had beers with that were from a similar region. One who believed that George W. was the greatest president America ever had. Something that I was just like, dude. Okay, so you're a Republican, but seriously, George W. Bush, you think is the greatest president ever? Because at the time, dude, I wasn't as warm to like reaching across the aisle on these things. But even now, I'd be like, seriously, like you can think of better Republican presidents, dude. I'm sure. Really, come on. There's been better ones. Come on. He really wasn't the greatest. Yes, Justin, he was the greatest American president. I remember he would say this to me very vehemently, and I say, okay. But, me and this guy in particular, though, I would say out of the lot, I probably hung out with him more than anybody. And he used to drive us to lunch and everything. His pride and joy, maybe someday he'll watch me or see me on screen. He'll know it's him. His pride and joy was parking as close as humanly possible to the pillar in this very cramped parking garage we all parked in the Bay Area. And you had to get an assigned parking spot. And or not, whether you had to pay for it rather in a parking spot, but you didn't get any assigned spots. So it was like, if you didn't get in there at just the right time on those levels that were the premium ones, you were stuck like backing into some incredibly narrow space, something that I'm not the best at. And this dude I'm telling you, he loved this. He got his car like this freaking close to that parking pill. I mean, literally, and he'd go, Justin, take a picture of me. And he'd proudly sit next to it like, I love that team. You guys, if you ever see any of you, I didn't leave early because of any of you. You guys were really awesome people. I liked you a lot. I could not handle being in the Bay Area. It was the culture there. You were the best part of it, all of you. Even those of you who gaslit me a little bit, I liked you. I really did. It's weird, the way we develop these friendships and under strange circumstances. But I kind of knew that a lot of guys there, like if they didn't play ball with whatever they were being told rigidly, like they could lose their work visas and things like that. So I've always felt very forgiving about my bad work experience there, even though it was a negative experience for me, that part. But God, I'm telling you, I had the best times working with those guys. Sorry to go off track here, guys. It's just one of those, I had to inject the humor in there so you guys understood. Like, even though I've been, I don't know, I can be a little harsh sometimes in reviewing history in some cases, but I have very fond memories of a lot of those guys out there, and I want you to know that. But they'll even agree, like, what a freaking disaster of a work. I could write a whole book about what it was like to work in that office for 6 months, and or a series that would last through a movie or something like that you would find incredibly funny and kind of dramatic and tragic simultaneously. I mean, it's like it would hit every note. I'm telling you, it would make a great story someday. I have to just sit down and write it. It was like a Wall Street boiling room, like really like how much yelling went on, but it was an engineering office. Like I've never experienced anything like it with that much yelling and cursing, and so bizarre. It did not feel, it was so surreal. It really did. It like a lot of these environments. So sorry guys, sorry to get off topic there, but anyways, that was so I do know some people anyways. So guys, please don't be offended by what I'm saying here, because what I'm telling you guys is like, this is how I know that these people did a corruption of Indian culture, because I just got to see such a broad variety of it. Even the guys that would wear traditional garb and had, were from different regions than the other guys and everything. And we had different kinds of conversations. They had different values, but none of them were like these people. None of them. And there was like tons of these dudes in there, really. About the only thing I can tell you was that they were pretty much exclusively males. So I didn't really know any women from that culture in regards to that. So, that's where my diversity of experience runs out. But as far as political opinions, yeah, they ran the gamut, and that would include religious and everything types of beliefs. And none of them were of these types of personalities or anything like that, or met the stereotypes that were being pushed on the people that were in these rural communities. So I really feel like what it was designed to do was use him, the Rajneesh, as like a figurehead to sort of like, kind of like, be intentionally offensive using an Indian person's face. But if you look behind that Indian man, you're going to find that, or the Hindu, from the Hindu culture, I should say. I'm trying to be sensitive to people's nomenclatures, guys. If I'm saying something wrong, please tell me. I'm not trying to be overly politically correct, and I will not be doing pronouns on this channel in the indefinite future unless I have to. Mostly because I don't even know how, guys. I'm too confused by all that. I'm not a bigot or anything like that. I'm just confused by it. You guys are, maybe you can give me some class in a way that's not aggressive or trying to like, use some fake character, and I might think about it, but I really doubt it. Anyways. Hey, my viewer count didn't go down when I said that. So, all right. Hey, we got a cool audience, I guess. You guys aren't going to like get too angry at me if I say things like that. All right. I'm not trying to be offensive either, guys. I mean, what I do here is just I try to bridge the gap knowledge-wise for some folks who may not get like maybe you only met one of these people, or maybe you were exclusively in a neighborhood that had like only one type from one region or whatever. I'm just telling you, like, because I was in this job for a while where we all just spent a lot of time hanging out. We worked all night long on work projects, spent time having lunches together that were like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. We really got to know each other well, I would say, even in that short amount of time. And it was never like this. I wish I would have been able to like bounce this off of some of these guys to ask them if they ever heard of it or whatever, things like that, because it's a trip. It's a really strange way to hijack politics, because if you think about it, what they did was a whole group of people that are more like, I would say, deep state, CIA, Hollywood, people that are trying to like corrupt records and corrupt adoption records and corrupt immigration records. They would want to bring in people that have more criminal histories, and then always have that illusion of it's religious persecution. I'm trying to get them in the country to get them safe. It's always exploiting that thing that people like me, it works my heartstrings. I'm going to be like, hey, you guys, this person just wants a chance at life. Like, why are you guys being so harsh? Because a lot of times people are being harsh and they're reviewing that sometimes, guys, the way they are, because you don't really get the deception. You don't understand that sometimes behind the scenes, they really are using it as a window opportunity to like flood us with a criminal class from another country, or like stolen children, because stolen children need to have names assigned to them once they're in here, guys. And this is another method of doing it. All right. I know I'm going to try not to go too dark here, guys, but you need to know I'm not trying to say they were doing it at Rajneeshpuram, but look, the whole thing was shady as hell. And so it created the illusion that it was an organic religious movement. I would argue that, yes, some portions of what the Rajneesh is, you know, like is part of whatever. Hang on. Like part of this movement, right? The Rajneesh movement is organic. Part of it involves like a real like type of mysticism or whatever to some degree, or it's co-opting or borrowing forms of other types of Indian mysticism and bringing it in. And then I would argue that all they had to really do was just get one core member. He's the face mask of the entire movement. That would be Rajneesh. And then, you know, he wants the Rolls Royces, man. The minute somebody from Europe comes into his movement and says like, Rajneesh, you're brilliant. You're brilliant. Oh my. Oh, you're just so brilliant. Oh, look at you. Oh, listen, you simply must talk to my friend. And then the friend comes in from like Canada and it's like going, hey, Rajneesh, yeah, I've got some rich partners over in blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we want to like, you really want to see what's going. Pretty soon Rajneesh is just like, you know, oh, this is something good, you know, right? He's like, sorry, I'm not trying to be mocking of anybody, guys. I have to distinguish my characters, and I have a tendency to do impersonations. I'm not trying to be mocking or whatever. Although I'm very good at doing mocking British impersonations when I want to. You can ask anybody. Just poorly done ones, but I'm not generally trying to be offensive. So I almost feel like giving one. There's a friend of mine that has been asking me to do certain impersonations lately, and I'm half tempted to do one right now, but I'm really trying to stay in more of a nice area with a larger community. All right, there. I might do one or two, though. All right. I can do the Time Bandits impersonation, and that might conceal it. You ever guys see Time Bandits? There's this guy, Randall, that's like the Time Bandits map guy. You do believe we're going to find this map? And we're gonna use the map to travel between time zones, timelines, and find the old supreme being. I haven't watched Time Bandits in a while, but Randall, the one who holds on to the map and leads the troops, you know, around from timeline to timeline and drops into different places, always has the map. Where's the map? So that's my impersonation of Randall. You can look it up, Randall, Time Bandits. You can see if I actually sound like him, but I promise you this is me. Anybody who's been in front of me knows I can actually do the impersonation. So no vocoder required. No special effects at all. All right. You can hire me too for this. You know, I'd much rather be hired for this than doing signal measurements and things like that. So voice talent for hire. Yeah, I'm trying to earn a living here, guys. Oh dear. All right. Oh my. I'm going to do another topic tonight. Don't let me forget, folks. Because yes, I want to talk about the Rajneesh thing, but on a separate thing tonight. And keep an eye out for this, because some of you, I'd really like you to be there. I would like to talk about really quick. I know we're only 48 minutes in, but it's going to be the next presentation I do. I want to talk about like a way, if it's not already being done, that we can start to coordinate a network of people that will, let me think about like, what are the challenges that we've had over the last couple years? Okay. Number one, they're trying to push certain baxes on us, right? And again, guys, regardless of your opinion on it, some people like myself, I have a very rigid opinion on this. I just don't like them at all. And they don't agree with me, and they never have. So that's my personal opinion, and that's what I want to do with my body. But I'm learning over and over again that this could increasingly cause me problems. And then as I've been thinking a little bit more positively lately and a little bit more optimistic, I have to ensure that my optimism isn't always like, whatever you want to say, like if my optimism isn't like taking into account all the challenges that could potentially happen. If I made a decision, for example, well, let me think this through a little bit. Say I'm thinking positively and I'm like, hey, maybe it might be a realistic possibility to start a family sometime soon. That might be nice. then I started asking myself, what are the doctors that you would go to? What are the hospitals, facilities that you would go to? Who and where are they like-minded in this current environment where everybody's scared of losing their job, their credentials, their whatever, their livelihoods, if they don't bow down to very, very flawed science that has been debunked a bazillion times over. There's tons of concerns about it. And all of our available options aren't of the same variety as the ones that have been proven a little bit more safe from other countries that America currently, with our relationship with them, doesn't like to associate with. Now, I don't like any of them, to be honest with you guys. I just don't. None of them I'm happy with. So I'm not promoting any of these is okay. What I'm saying is that what are the safe environments that people can go to where they won't be expected? Where can you get a job where they won't make this a requirement, or a mask a requirement, or they won't submit to the larger whatever? Now, I'm talking about people that will follow the law, because that obviously we have to do that. But at some point, if it becomes uninhabitable, or the laws don't make sense to the point where they, cost people their businesses, their livelihood, or whatever, it doesn't make sense. And then people just sort of have to make decisions. Okay, we have to have a, somewhat of a resistance to this, and we need to make it as safe for one another as humanly possible. And so we have some states that are taking a lead. I would say, states like Texas and Florida historically have just had more of an independent-minded population, and their laws tend to follow suit. And I would just say that, that's a good template. Like, what are they doing there? How are they making it safer? And you could use those states, I would say, to, I'm just going to do this now, guys, since it's in the middle of this, I guess, a commercial break. But I'm going to expand on this, and I'm going to do a whole new presentation on it later. If not tonight, then tomorrow. But think this through a little bit in the meantime, because I'm going to get back into talking about the Rajneesh. Where would there be safe doctors? I mean, even safe dentists. Where are the safe, eye doctors? Where are the people, whoever they are, who aren't going to confront you with some nonsense about what you have to do in order to get a service from them? Like, well, you have to do this and sign this and get this credential, and then you have to have your access card that says that you had your 5 masks on while you had your 3 shots and your 10, come on, guys. I mean, so what I'm just saying is how do we find a way where it's going to be like an app almost, to where is it okay to go to this restaurant, right? Because what you might find, folks, is right now, all the things that they're scaring business owners with, if you create incentives and a whole new customer base to say, guys, this is where you're welcomed. This is where, if you're not going to wear a mask, they're going to allow you to sit there and be okay with it. And, again, think of it as an opportunity, just like a way to network a lot of things together, and however you want to name it or call it or whatever, that would be, restaurants that you can go to, doctors' offices, whatever it is. I was just thinking more in terms of what if I did decide to do something like start a family? It just occurred to me man, that's having these beliefs right now can cause a lot of challenges. Some of these people do some pretty, aggressive things to confront, those beliefs, just letting you know. I mean, I'm not trying to get too specific, but yeah, I mean, they'll cross some pretty serious lines to take control of a person's offspring, or the livelihood of the parents of an offspring or whatever, over certain decisions that are made relative to their beliefs on these things. And so I really feel like there's opportunities where people maybe in the past have been kind of in a gray area, where they've been kind of gosh, should I kind of cross the line and do what I feel like in my heart is the right thing to do? This is a way to make it easier, so that those people will know at this point, it's not, look, they're already tracking you, right, on all kinds of levels to find out, are they doing this? Or are they doing that? Weaponize the tracking against them, which is to say, not weaponize, but what they're using to weaponize informationally against you is, it's almost impossible for the average person to change, no matter what methods you use. So, it's a little bit I was watching Magnolia last night with somebody, and that line, about wise up, it says, it's not going to stop. So just give up, that's the last line of the song. And I don't really interpret that, me personally, I don't interpret that just give up. I don't think it means that. I think what it really means is that there's certain currents and waves that are constantly going to be coming in. And if you're focused excessively on that you miss all. It's a little bit like that Bruce Lee line, you know, like when you focus on the finger, you'll miss all that heavenly glory. Well, yeah, at the time he's like showing this guy his physical finger, but I would argue that that's a metaphor for when you're always thinking about pointing the finger at somebody, you're going to miss all the heavenly glory. You're going to miss your opportunities for making the world better because you're so focused on fighting the person at their level who is doing something negative. So I would say this is the way to like not always be fighting them at their level of negativity and being drawn into their negativity. This is about focusing on something where you're actually taking control of the environment and taking control of your options and actually providing new opportunities for people that otherwise wouldn't have been there. Some of these restaurants may have been doing even worse before you do that, like before this happens, right? And this person identifying themselves as being proud of their roots and proud of being an American and saying like, look, I support customers that are this similarly minded, even if they are a little bit different than my way of thinking. If we agree on these core things that make them feel invited into my restaurant, great. However that manifests, guys, you know, but I just don't want to see a lot of people lose access to services and opportunities within working environments because they're not kowtowing to some nonsense rules. And I think if this is just one way of like potentially, hey guys, you don't have to create an app. I don't know what the solution is, you know, however this works out. But I just feel like a network is kind of like something that needs to be brainstormed and thought up in addition to just like a general think tank about these things on top of the rest of it. But all right, end of commercial break. That was probably a long, several minute long intro to what's going to be the next presentation, or pretty close to the next, if not the next one. Because I want us to be, this to me is a little bit delving into whatever. Honestly, folks, I feel like this is really important because it's a metaphysical, physical thing that the Rajneesh is doing. They understand that. Part of what the Rajneesh's power, I guess you could say, is his ability to manifest things into physical reality by getting people to believe in him and what he's doing. And he manifested Rolls Royces left and right. He manifested an entire village of people that were willing to go to Central Oregon and do all these things with them. I mean, that's pretty powerful. So yeah, they're learning from him, and they're simultaneously tapping into that wellspring of knowledge that he has organically, and they're corrupting it and turning it into something that's far more materialistic than it began with. And so if you look deeper into it, you're going to see that, you know, hang on here. So it says at the peak of these tensions, a circle of leading members of the Rajneeshpuram Oregon commune were arrested for crimes including attempted murder as part of the first recorded bioterror attack in the United States, calculated to influence the outcome of a local election in their favor, which ultimately failed. Salmonella was deployed to infect salad products in local restaurants and shops, which poisoned several hundred people. The Bhagwan, as Rajneesh was then called, was deported from the United States in 1985 as part of his Alfred plea deal, and following the convictions of his staff and right hand, Ma Anand Sheila, who were found guilty of the attack. The movement's headquarters eventually returned to Pune, India. The Oregon commune was destroyed in September 1985. It really wasn't, guys. It was sold to Young Life, and they turned it into a camp. So I guess, yeah, they took down a lot of the structures probably, but they mainly kept the whole area as a camp and all of its infrastructure intact, and it's being used by I think it's a Christian organization called Young Life. The movement in India gradually received a more positive response from the surrounding society, especially after the founder's death in 1990. The Osho International Foundation, previously Rajneesh International Foundation, RIF, that's a little weird, is managed by an inner circle set up by Rajneesh before his death. They jointly administered Rajneesh's estate and operate the Osho International Meditation Resort in Pune. Anyways, but that just kind of gives you a better idea. Like, these people were That's the guy that they basically co-opted the movement of. And again, guys, I don't suggest to you that this guy was ever, you know, a great guy to begin with or anything like that. I don't really know one way or the other. I haven't really studied him to a large degree. It's just that what this, I think, did to the culture out there in Central Oregon was it kind of made it to where people who had never seen guys like this really up close in their towns and everything like that were all left with a negative impression of them. And, you know, again, people shouldn't necessarily be that way, but that's sort of what they intend for the outcome to be, okay, is that this one interaction with this group is going to be anchored in the minds of these people to be like, well, you always got to watch out for those people, right? They love this. They love to do this to different cultures. But when you really get into who was backing Rajneesh in America, it was kind of like this multinational group of people from various places. They were from Canada, they were from Europe, they were from, I mean, all over the place. And then, you know, they seem to have closer ties to CIA. Well, I would argue guys, did the FBI help in this situation? Were they corrupt back then as they are now? Were they always what they are today then? I don't know. But this whole thing that happened out there is really just suspect. That's all I can tell you. And what I think is really going on today is similar groups have kind of taken this model of basically taking something that begins as like really something that certain people feel organically and having like a couple people that really get a feel for it, because it's not as effective if you don't have at least a few people that are very charismatic that actually believe in it. Like because it's that genuine whatever that person is going to be used as the conduit. And if the people, most people that are like that are worth fooling won't be fooled by the people that are funding a guy like Rajneesh. That's why they need the guy like Rajneesh to be in the front of it. They need that guy to be there just saying all of the mystic things that get people to be reeled in and things. And then the people behind him, they begin to corrupt the entire movement through him. And he's just the figurehead. Why do they do that? It's because they can then take on names like Prem Hasya, you know, whatever, right? And then those names oftentimes can have slight corruptions. They can be misspelled, like Hasya can be Hsya. They might spell it Hassya. They might spell it Hasyya, Hsyaa. These are all ways of just basically taking one name. And because it's an ethnic name that most people out in the middle of Oregon have never heard of, it's so easy to create multiples by pretending it's a typo or pretending that it's like, oh, well, you misspelled it. And well, it's your fault that this birth certificate got, you know, processed wrong, or this falsified, you know, driver's license got whatever, right? And then if the names are confusing to begin with to the people, or they're using these slight corruptions of language to begin with, and then they'll also cross identities, like a couple sisters might be able to use the same name, for example. You're looking at an early form of what I've called these, quote, trinities of deception. And the trinities of deception are just when they like integrate, like one person is like more or less real. Like say they were going to do it to, I don't know, anybody, right? It doesn't matter. You would have one person that goes out there and mostly or entirely looks like the face. And then they can show up at public events. So it can be an actor, for example, yet that person isn't always being played by themselves. Sometimes they literally are being played by an avatar so that they can be replaced on set in some cases, or for some film projects. The actor themselves, who's normally out there doing public appearances and even does some of the acting, they don't always have to do it. One form of them can be sitting at home while the other person is literally doing the entire role using masking. They can show up to the set, work with the other actors, and blend in with the other actors and be that person for a day. I know, guys. I mean, you got to know this exists because, I mean, even basic face swap is not hyper realistic, but it's fairly realistic, especially when you get better phones and you start getting in better processors and graphics cards. You can do some pretty hyper realistic things involving swapping people's faces out. And so I call these modern ones trinities of deceptions because they are kind of designed to corrupt records and keep people in different places. It different times, or like a person has like Michael Bolton would be a classic one of them, right? That film Office Space kind of covers this, where there's this guy named Michael Bolton, and he's not the singer, and he uses his full name Michael. He doesn't go by Mike. And so he's always pissed off because people are like, are you related to that singer guy? And he's like, no, I'm not, man. I listen to hip hop. I don't listen to that crap. I hate Michael Bolton. Michael Bolton sucks. And so the guy's always angry because people call him that, you know. But see, for these people, that would be a great thing, because they could have Michael spelled like, you know, Mikael, Michael, Mickel. They can do all kinds of different ways of saying like, oh no, well, no, this is an ethnic name, right? And then they could apply the one that's more spelled that way to somebody that may look like they had a more ethnic variation, or perhaps the Muslim spelling of Michael is different. They'll tend to spell it with that K and the E, for example. And then a person that normally is using the name Michael could have another alias that is perhaps from another country or whatever, that's Mikel. That's the kind of things that they do, for example, okay? And why they do it, to confuse records. And then people really don't have a clue. And then, you know, when they want to create multiple IDs and multiple driver's license or whatever to do registering of different whatever, like for voting especially, yeah, they can basically hijack a whole rural county like Wasco County and influence their election through this method. And so you just have to, if you learn more about the Rajneesh story, how they imported all these homeless people from out of town. Now, think about that in 1985, about what was possible with limited amounts of technology. Today, they don't really have to do something that extravagant. Now they can do something like what Antifa's doing. Those people can go out there and find the people that are a little bit more on the fringes of stability, people that have drug dependencies, people that have histories of being abused, and then in some cases people who have sex offender histories oftentimes, and they really like those folks in particular because those people are desperate to have another identity, because the one that they're stuck with as sex offenders has been corrupted. It's effectively useless to get jobs. They can't live most places. And so it's very tempting for them to get recruited by these, quote, social justice movements that'll offer them an alias, which is congratulations, clean, and can get them jobs. And now, well, you know, they have their comrades surrounding them. So getting all the references is no problem. Equally falsified credentials for the comrades that are going to be, you know, saying, yeah, thumbs up, this person's a good person. Yeah, go ahead and bring them on board. And so, again, when you look at those Antifa arrests, especially in Portland, and you look at the fakeness of their names, you really have to start looking back at the Rajneesh incident to find out what's going on, because you're going to find a similar ecosystem. So why was I talking about American Nazis and everything else like that before? Because remember, Francoise Ruddy, who was called Ma Prem Hasya, again, I'll bring her up here. Where is that? Hang on. All right, that's Ma Prem Hasya. Actually, there she is right there. What am I talking about? Oh, wait, no. I had it all queued up to where I could show you the clip. There it is. So that's Francois Ruddy. And so what I'm telling you guys is like, yeah, Rajneesh is the guy that I showed you before, right? I mean, this guy, you know, this guy's the mystic figurehead, but who's funding it? Who's producing this show? Who's producing this show? Ma Prem Hasya, Hasya Francois Ruddy, married to Albert S. Ruddy. What's he known for? Well, Albert S. Ruddy didn't just produce that. Well, he produced Cannonball Run. That's a timeline movie. That's a different topic, though. But he's really most known for the Godfather series. So you guys see the correlation here? Albert S. Ruddy produced The Godfather. It says right there. Albert Stotland Ruddy. Godfather. Okay. So his ex-wife was Francoise Ruddy. Francoise Ruddy wound up at the Rajneesh camp. So all I'm trying to explain, guys, is, you know, I think you need to think of this as Rajneesh produced by Prem Hasya Productions. Rajneesh produced by Prem Hasya Productions. And so when you look at Antifa, you need to think of Antifa produced by Productions. Who has it been replaced with as the name? I don't know. You know, I'm not going to tell you who's running that show in particular, but it's the same thing going on. Are there people who believe in anti-fascism that they've really latched onto within that movement? Yep. And they can radicalize them very aggressively. They can get some people to really, really believe in their heart of hearts that there's something organic to their belief structure internally within Antifa. But it's just not the reality. Yeah, some of you that are out there, you probably got talked into it, and you believe that you're not being run by groups that are a lot closer to, you know, people that are friendly to, you know. Guys, if you really know what this book was designed to do and what it really communicates cipher-wise, it would make more sense to you. And I've gone into that material in depth. You can go into my playlists, and I talk about it, the bloodline families, the bloodline wars. It's all about things involving the Godfather or the ciphers within the Godfather. And no, I'm not a person that's close to any of those particular lettered movements. I don't do that. You know, I've always rejected that. And I've always told people that you're wasting your time with a lot of those movements, and you'd be better off reviewing some of the material that I've done. That's fine, though. People spent 4 years reviewing ciphers and drops and puzzles and cryptograms. You know, like, to me, QAnon wasn't unlike what the Zodiac did. They just trolled everybody with cryptograms, and then nothing happens. There's no resolution. That's what the Zodiac did. They went out and killed a bunch of people. They're like, is it this person? Is it that person? You might never know. Whatever. And they troll everybody. And it's like, you know, and it's fuck. Yeah, sorry, guys. It's just bizarre. You know, the observation I have, and I'm not trying to be critical or anything like that. It's just that when you're a person that really tries to give information to people, it's almost like you learn that some people, I don't know, man, like, it's nothing wrong or anything like that. It's just as a challenge, because you can get like kind of punished for it, and not in any way that I'm like angry about or anything like that. It's just that not everybody's ready for it at every interval, you know, and that sometimes they have to take it in stages and steps and everything like that to understand it, myself included. And so I'm just telling you that, guys, because, you know, like, to those who I kind of like, sometimes people are trying to tell me something and I didn't really get it. And so I rejected the person's information that it had entirely. And that was wrong. In some cases I had to do that, and it was a good decision to make. So not in every case am I regretful of it, but no, I wasn't always right in pushing out people's information. I think in certain cases I was just confronted with something that my brain had to whatever, you know, and I rather than accepting it at that level, you know, sometimes I assign negative intention to the messenger. So, you know, guys, I understand sometimes my information can be a little bit abstract and weird and things like that. And sometimes it seems almost synchronistic in nature in ways that seem intentional. But the best thing I can tell you is it's really not when it comes to me. You know, I get a lot of information just because I'm close to a lot of these things and I understand it very well. Okay. And I spent a lot of time in Portland. I spent a lot of time in rural Oregon. And I didn't really know about democratic politics that deeply. I wasn't paying close attention to it because I just stopped caring about those things for a number of years. But you kind of have to understand the way that, like, for example, Antifa all hung out at this bar called Cider Riot, which has been closed down now. And Cider Riot was 0.11 miles and 33 degrees exactly from the Oregon. Well, if you went out the front entrance of Cider Riot, it was 33 degrees and 0.11 miles just around the corner. Okay, just to the Oregon Democrat headquarters. An occulted connection that I don't think was unintentional, to be honest with you. And I'm not trying to go there because I want you to take this information seriously, those who really don't study those things. Those things are done with intention, because you don't really understand how many people have these very deeply embedded occultist values and belief systems that do understand what Rajneesh was doing at a deeper occulted level. I mean, they understood the human energy concepts deeply. The point of always co-opting people like that and turning it into something that's really crass and winds up being like corrupted and looks like a big fake thing is because they want you to associate all Eastern mysticism with that. And that's horrible, because you can learn so much from that culture relative to human energy concepts that you really don't want that to be your model for how you get introduced to it. So it's like they create these events in Oregon all the time to get everybody across the country. They hyper focus on what happens on these Oregon incidences that have all been manufactured. But yeah, they bring in a real person with real beliefs. They twist it, they F it up. They turn it into a Hollywood production. They bring in all their special effects teams. They bring in all of their stunt drivers, stunt actors, all their resources from the people that don't have anything going on in a Hollywood project at that moment. And they do sub projects while they're doing all this deception out there. I'm sure that the Rajneesh incident was just really a way to hide other activities simultaneously, like trafficking. I mean, guys, there was obviously some other funding of money coming in if the guy had 90 some Rolls Royces. Are you serious? Do you really think that he had that kind of money coming in from people that weren't just filthy freaking rich and using him as some larger conduit for a lot of other operations and laundering of names? This was international laundering, using all the names, the fake names, and then assigning them to people like, again, some Canadian born or French born or whatever born actor or producer or rich family or whatever. They get to constantly launder their personalities, launder their names, and create multiple names that they can now accept checks, open businesses under, and nobody really knows who they're actually married to, especially back then when there's no internet. 1985, do you know how difficult it was to find out who Prem Hasya really was unless you already knew? Now we can find it out like that, but not back then. Me getting you all these associations now, I can do it quick. Back then, man, you had to really work. You had to put in some miles. One of the only good things about the internet, I guess. But it's just filled with so much fake information. So now we have to be able to go through all these stories that happened in history and say, like, what's really going on? Why are there now the documentary, for example, why are they doing Wild Wild West? Or excuse me, Wild Wild Country, which I thought was trippy. Like, this is being produced by the Duplass brothers. So again, they're pretty cool indie guys. I mean, I saw a few of their movies and I thought it was pretty, heartfelt, decent work. But really, they're more entertainment guys. They do comedy and independent like films and things like that have more of a comedic tone. And so I thought it was interesting that the Netflix documentary series that covers the Rajneesh is called Wild Wild Country. I haven't watched it yet, guys. I know you would think that if I'm covering it for an hour and a half, the least I would have done is given it but I totally unsubscribed from Netflix, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years ago, and I have not gone back. And I'm very happy about that decision because I really don't like what's going on at Netflix. I think that a lot of these documentaries, while they seem convincing on the surface, are really being used as like giving you a certain percentage, then covering up the worst aspects of it, with that by not giving you the 20-30% that you really need to get it. And so again, no offense to the Duplass brothers, I think you make amazing films and everything like that, and pretty funny guys. But I don't know, man. I really feel like there's still a lot of cover up going on when it comes to all of the Hollywood interest in this, and that it's just another extension of more of the same, especially when you connect it to things relative to Antifa. And again, I didn't want this to necessarily be an excessive Antifa lecture. I'm just telling you that when you think about that, they were trying to influence an election with a bioterrorist attack, getting back to that slide, the bioterror attack, and that part of their agenda was assassinations. They literally had it in their minds to, says in 1985, a group of high-ranking Rajneeshis, followers of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, known as Osho, conspired to assassinate Charles Turner, the then United States Attorney for the District of Oregon. Rajneesh's personal secretary and second in command, Ma Anand Sheila. Guys, keeping in mind that his other in command was Ma Prem Hasya, Francoise Ruddy. I mean, ex-wife of the producer of The Godfather. Can we get any more? Na, 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 na. In all reality, the real mafia is this, guys. And the movies they make is just the mask they wear to do this. Don't look. They give you all the things that you already know as far as the details sprinkled in the storyline, but the movie is a great big don't look, don't look. It's a mirror of the reality designed to confuse you, okay? And you should understand like what they were doing out here, because now you're getting deeper into what was really going on. Well, they wanted to assassinate. Who wants to assassinate Charles Turner? Why would a Rajneesh from India have an interest in murdering Charles Turner? Well, let's look at what Charles Turner was. What was he known for? Well, he was a U.S. attorney investigating sham marriages and immigration fraud. Well, how about that, guys? Why do you think he became a target? Because he understood this exact money laundering thing I'm telling you about, immigration fraud. This was all about money laundering and laundering of people's names, getting them into America under fictional things. Now, again, guys, I've always been a person that's pretty sympathetic to somebody wanting to start in America. There's all these movies that came out about somebody fighting and bending the law or going into a gray area here and there to do this or that. I get it. I'm with you there. I mean, you know, I understand why that's so romantic of an idea and why it makes sense in many cases for people to do things like that. But, you know, guys, there's also this thing that it's designed sometimes to get away with some pretty dark activities. And so the reason why you would want to have somebody like that, you know, is because of this exact reason, who's concentrated on it, is because they could be using it to do larger activities. Now, if the people that were behind this facility had the ability to do bioweapons and salmonella poisoning and, you know, weapons and bombs and performing an assassination on somebody like this, can you imagine? I mean, maybe it's good that this guy was doing it, but let's look at what was this guy? What was the, oh, there you go, guys. Not only was he going against immigration fraud, but he was a Republican. So there was a Republican guy assigned to investigating these things, and let's look at who's really behind this. These are like people that are just like generations long Dems. They use people of color. They use different ethnicities as their human shields to get away with their own bidding between their own people. And what it really breaks down to is, I think you can look at in this sense, because I know Charles Turner's a little bit, he's a little bit controversial in his own right, because look, I don't agree with everything the guy was associated with, but he does seem to have done some things relative to this, you know, issue that was pretty substantial. Okay. That created made him into a target for not just this Rajneesh facility, but just the Dems in general, and people that I would argue are more like CIA deep staters that knew that Turner was happening upon a much deeper money laundering and personality and immigration fraud based, call it people laundering. I mean, you know, money laundering, you use ones and zeros and throwing a number in and taking a number out to achieve it. With this type of laundering, it's name corruption, it's birth certificate corruption, it's ethnic name corruption, it's pretending that a lady from Europe suddenly found God and changed her name to Ma Prem Hasya. Yeah, now she can mix Francois with Ma Prem Hasya or Francois Hasya or Hasya Francois Ruddy Hasya, or, you know, think of all the different variations that she can use. She's deceased now, so, you know, no disrespect to the family or anything like that, but, you know, I was just telling you, it seems to me like it probably wasn't organically the plan of the Rajneesh when he was out there in India with all of his followers to someday move to Central Oregon and then plot against killing Charles Turner, who was a lead investigator of immigration fraud, which would have tapped into these people's ecosystem of bringing people in from other countries who are oftentimes of a criminal class or who have been kidnapped or stolen as children. and bringing them in as international adoptees, and then whatever. A topic that you may find I know a little bit something about based on certain histories of certain people that have had their entire histories whitewashed that are close to me out in Bothell. So this is another method that was used by the Love family cult, guys. Again, they used again, like this movement used Indian names. The Love family cult would say, well, we all take on a virtue like love or positivity or energy or faith, and then we throw out our last names that we were born with, and we all take on the name Israel. Why? Because whatever our virtue is, it's an actual thing. Love is real. So my name is Love Israel. They're not Jewish. They're not Israeli. It means is space REAL. But then what happens about a generation or two after this stupid, silly story all goes away, right? This is what these people think long term, you guys. They think way, way, way ahead. Think about it. What have they just done here? Now they've got a few generations that have the name Israel. They can go up to places and go, hi, my name is Bob Israel. Yeah, I got some Jewish lineage. How the hell would you know? A person can just become Jewish. They can just simply wave a magic wand and say, I went to a synagogue. I am now Jewish. My name's Israel too. So how do you know? Yeah, sometimes people just change their religion, or they weren't really born this or that, or they get an interest in it and they become something. I get it. But it didn't even start out that way. It was a way for them to corrupt records. And so again, take that model, apply it to the other model, apply it to the other model. Now you know why I said some of the things I said relative to a certain incident that happened back in January out in our capital. It's all connected. I put out something out on Twitter today talking about it. It's all connected. There's always this sort of like, did that happen? I didn't see that. There's all these people that are at these higher levels of enforcement that just, they all kind of look the other way at this whole people laundering aspect of bringing in these different personalities and then co-opting these cultures. So again, apply what I just told you. When you look at all those mugshots connected to Antifa, you're finding the same laundering method. Those fake names, I don't know where they're pulling them out of these hats. I don't know how the hell they're getting these credentials created so quickly, but they are fake. So figure it out. Whatever method that they're using is something similar. And I think that like what Antifa is mostly doing is repurposing this whole gender identity thing to say like the same way like you would change your name from Francoise Ruddy to Prem Hasya and make a birth certificate thing out of it. It's a religious decision and you have to respect my religion or else it's persecution. When it's really a clever way of just laundering identities. And then now equally, they're going to say, hey, I changed my name to this to like say that I'm a she, he, her, has, his whole pronoun. And I'm a multi-pronoun, multi-transgender, transracialist. Whatever that is. I'm not sure. I'm losing track of all the things a person can be and should be is and might be or can be or has to be that are involving these nouns and pronouns and whatnot. So I'm just looking at it all humorously now, guys. I can't keep up with it, so I'm not going to try. It's like finding a good movie now that's like been released in the last 5 years. I can't keep up with any of it, and I don't want to waste the time. I'll leave it up to somebody to make a recommendation that's compelling someday, kind of thing, right? It's just like, but I can't. Like most of like the things that I'm like, what happened, guys? I think that the answers are becoming a little bit easier to figure out a little bit on, you know, where a lot of the ecosystem leads back to. But just try to remember, I mean, what these really are, folks, they're Hollywood productions placed out in front of you as reality that are just sprinkling a little bit of real, which is to say that there are people that believe in the Rajneesh. There are real values that he's promoting and tapping into that others that are more genuine and sincere and real also believed. And I've read some of their material. I won't say who, but I've read some of these books of like some other Eastern mystics, and I was kind of like, man, they really know something, man. What the hell is this? Why isn't this all over the place? This this would be a religion that all kinds of people would be into. Like, why aren't people into this? Because I even read it and felt like it was pretty compelling scientifically. It had nothing to do with beliefs. I just looked at it, what it was communicating about energy fields within the human body relative to, like, I guess, prana type concepts that are more, you know, India based in that type of nature, right? From their cultural perspective. And it was compelling. It was, you know, I thought just scientifically accurate. But I don't think it was enough for me to go into a religion over or anything like that. I would just simply found it like, wow, whatever they're teaching there, they actually understand something about human energy flow and whatever. So touche, there's some real things out there that really get it. But again, the whole point is to, the same way it's like based on a real story. You know, Rajneesh, what was presented to you as this whole fake news that became reality, it was based on the real story, but then put out to you with the news cycle participating, with the media participating, all getting involved and convincing you this story's super real. And now, guess what, guys? They're doing it over and over again relative to the Antifa and BLM things, and they're creating race baiting incidents where fake character goes against other fake character. Both are guilty of something they shouldn't have done, but now people that are good and decent out there are going to advocate on behalf of both sides that in most cases, neither one you would frankly piss on if they were on fire, if you knew who they really were. But because they got you all debating this issue and it's become very controversial to not take one side or the other, you're now going to advocate for somebody that normally you never would. It's really strange how they've got everybody in a whole series of these over and over again. So please take a step back. Don't get angry anymore at the news cycle. I'm begging you guys. I'm not begging you. I don't beg. No, I'm asking you guys, please. Like, don't do this to yourselves. I'm trying not to do it to myself either. I used to spend a lot of time with the news cycle and putting myself into it and feeding into the negativity of the Twitters and everything. And guys, they really want you manufacturing it for them. They want you in this static, keeping you in this physical reality, instead of learning the larger lesson behind that Eastern mysticism, that you are surrounded by an energy field, that you're surrounded by a biofield, and that your thoughts become things, and that what you're focused and concentrated on does actually start to bind into a physical reality, because you have to look at it like the same way you sweat. Once it dissipates from a bead of sweat and it keeps going out, that's just information that's binding to almost like a steam that now travels all around the world. And you know what it does? It binds to all the other droplets, which are beliefs and values and structures of beliefs and values and archetypes and numbers, and all of it binds together and structures our reality. What are you programming? What are you putting into manifestation daily? What do you believe in at every given moment? What do you want to have happen? You see? So I'm just saying, like, I learned this every day. I learn more and more how to master the art of just not allowing myself to drift in the negativity. But yeah, I go there sometimes, guys. So let's help each other get back on track whenever we can. Let's be better whenever we can. Let's just manifest a better reality and understand that we have the power to do it. That let's just laugh off some of these things that are designed to like create prejudice, bigotry, race baiting, and just learn to like say, I forgive you. It's okay. Like, I'm over it. It's fine. Like, you know, I didn't mean to offend you, but if I did, hey, whatever. Are you cool? Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah. Okay. You're good. All right. Let's just get over things instead of people just like getting bent out of shape and staying that way when it comes to these larger social things. They really want us all there, guys, ladies and gentlemen. So let's not do it. Let's be better than that. Anyways, I'm going to end on that note. Think about what I said in the middle of this presentation about like a larger working group, a list of whatever networks and organizations we can establish, okay? That's going to be coming up soon. Thank you for watching tonight.